As winter gives way to spring break or the run-up to prom season, many young people head for the tanning salon. But studies have shown the pursuit of a tan can dramatically increase the odds of skin cancer or melanoma. It's also the leading cause of cancer among women ages 25 to 32. Our guest knows the story all too well. She's a melanoma survivor from Northampton, Massachusetts, who believes her cancer was likely caused by exposure to ultraviolet rays in tanning booths. She's also trying to prevent new cases by visiting local communities as a spokesperson for the Melanoma Foundation of New England. We'd like to welcome Meghan Rothschild. Thank you very much for being with us, Meghan.
Thank you for having me.
Go back to the beginning of the story. I guess you're a young lady, you're trying to look nice, and then this happens.
Absolutely. I mean, I was 17 years old, and like any other teenage girl, had a tremendous amount of insecurities about the way I looked. Didn't like the fact that I had the fair skin, the red hair, light eyes. So I started using indoor tanning booths. I did that, would go about once a week, pretty average, with other people who are using tanning booths, that's about an average. Stopped using sunscreen altogether, just really kind of sought out any opportunity I could to get a tan, obtain a tan. And I did that for 2.5 years until I spotted a suspicious looking mole on my abdomen. And I noticed that I kept itching at it. I kept catching my hand being drawn in and itching. And so I felt like I needed to let my doctor know, alert my doctor to it. And after some kind of forceful negotiating with her, demanding to have it taken off, she actually told me the mole looked fine. It would be a week after my initial surgery to get the mole taken off that I would be given a diagnosis of cancer.
Now, I imagine anytime there's a consumer alert, the businesses involved, they're maybe out there saying, well, if you did this right, if you took the proper precautions, you wouldn't have these problems. But so what's the issue here, you think?
I think that, that's definitely something that small business owners, especially the tanning salon owners, would say. But the reality here is that the World Health Organization has declared UV radiation from tanning booths as a known carcinogen. And in fact, it's just as cancer-causing as cigarettes. So the reality is it causes cancer. And it doesn't matter if you do it in moderation. Even visiting a tanning booth just once a month will increase your risk of melanoma by 75%. So this is unfortunately a cancer that's affecting the younger population, particularly the young female population, because of that vanity issue and the desire to be tan.
Well, of course, if you're exposed to the sun in the wrong way, that can be carcinogenic as well. But talk about the intensity, the difference in intensity if you're going to a tanning salon.
Sure. The UV radiation that's emitted from a tanning booth is actually 3 to 6 times what's emitted by the sun. So going into a tanning booth for just 20 minutes, is like laying out for hours unprotected in the UV exposure of the sun. And the intensity is much higher as well. It's a concentrated UV exposure. You're laying in that booth and it's right on top of you. So unfortunately, using the tanning booths just magnifies that chance of getting a melanoma or a different type of skin cancer.
Now, some people watching us here might say, well, she's a survivor. She seems to be healthy. So how bad was it?
It was bad. That's a big misconception about skin cancer, is it's just skin cancer, right? We hear that all the time. Oh, you just go in, you get it taken off, you move about your daily life. With my melanoma, they had to make sure that it didn't go inside the body. So I had to have lymph nodes extracted. I had to have drainage tubes sewn into my incisions. It was a tremendous recovery process. I couldn't lift anything above, 10 pounds for a few months because some of the lymph nodes had come out from under my arms. I know people who have survived stage 3 or, faced a stage 4 melanoma that have to go through interferon. And I think there's a misconception that melanoma is just skin cancer, but the reality is it travels inside the body and it can attack your organs, and that's how it becomes deadly. It
also seems that there was several months on end you were worried about whether you were going to recover or if you're just going to get a lot worse.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing with melanoma is, you have to make sure that it hasn't spread inside the body, and that's a process. They go in, they take the lymph nodes, it takes weeks for them to biopsy them, and you're sitting there kind of just waiting and waiting. But the thing with melanoma is once you've had it, you're at a greater risk to get it again. So even though I have now been 10 years cancer-free, there is definitely potential that I would get it again. So it's something that you have to live with. It's a cancer that you constantly have to live with, and you have to change your behavior in order to make sure you don't get it again.
What about the people you've been talking to when you've been going around as a spokesperson volunteer?
I speak mostly to teens in the high schools and young adults in colleges, and absolutely it's, you know, they pay attention. And a lot of people will say, that's a tough audience to have to speak to. That's a really difficult audience that, you know, you're interacting with. Do they really listen to your message? But I think because I was diagnosed during my sophomore year of college when I was only 20, there's a piece that's relatable there. And so students really do pay attention, and they get really nervous because they're thinking about their own behaviors and what have I done to my skin over the last few years, and they become really interested because they're worried about their own health once they see someone who's, you know, young and had melanoma.
Well, one of the things you're asking them to do is to take a pledge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially I don't mean to dump on teenagers because I was this way myself, but if you ask a teenager to promise to not do something, it's asking for trouble, isn't it?
You know, it is. The pledge asks them to start making a promise to themselves that they're going to be skin safe and they're going to start paying attention to their skin. And the way that I look at it is, you know, maybe they sign the pledge and maybe they slip and they don't wear sunscreen or they visit the tanning booth again, but what the pledge does is it keeps your skin top of mind. So if they sign it knowing that they're still going to continue a negative behavior, I think that a part of them remembers, oh my goodness, I signed this pledge, or this isn't right. As long as they think twice about what, you know, the behavior that they're about to partake in, I think it's worth it.
Chris, the other issue here is just the way kids deal with the challenge of self-worth. Mm-hmm. And I guess if they're focused on the skin or the outward appearance, then it's tough to get them away from that focus. Maybe you got to get them away to a different focus.
I think, you know, that's the problem, is that our culture tells you you have to have a glow to be pretty, you have to have a tan to be pretty, and to look healthy, and that's really difficult for teens because they're dealing with a lot of body image issues already. So what we like to preach at the foundation is that your skin is beautiful the way it is. It's your body's largest organ. Treat it with respect, pay attention to it. However, we understand that it's difficult to embrace the skin that you're in. So here's some healthy alternatives. Here's makeup techniques or spray tans or sunless tanners that you can do at home. We try to offer these students and these young adults alternatives that can be much safer than exposure to UV radiation, because we understand that it can be a challenge to kind of accept your body the way it is, especially at that young age.
You mentioned if people want any more of this information or any other kind of help, is there where they can follow up?
Yes, they can visit mfne.org, which is the Melanoma Foundation's website, and it has all the information and helpful tips on how to prevent melanoma.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
This is Meghan Rothschild from the Melanoma Foundation of New England. We'll have more news in just a moment.